Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can hear more stories like this. Syphon Filter. Let's get in the trenches. Let me tell you something. Right in here, right now that I'm recovering, sitting in bed, taking medications, what am I thinking about? What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about old video games that they should remake. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. And in this one, once I started remembering, once I started having the reader read me stories, asking Alexa, I got deep in the trenches, man. Deep in the trenches, and I learned things that maybe I had forgotten. I didn't remember. So let's go back. Let's go back in time, and let me tell you about Syphon Filter. Back in the day, in the PlayStation days, I had a demo disc, and this demo disc had Syphon Filter. That's how I discovered the game. And in this day, let me tell you, in this day where quantity over quality, especially in storytelling and all kinds of remakes, this is one that we should bring back, and this is the case that I'm going to make to you. Right? From the original PlayStation, Syphon Filter kind of fell, it fell between the cracks, if you will. In my vast piles of game hoarding video games that I have, one of the classics that I remember is Syphon Filter from that time. Now, eventually, I did buy the game, but at that time I was working a lot, so my son played it more than I did. I would play it, when I got home after work, but I was so tired most of the time I would just watch him play. But let me tell you this, when the game was released, it was right between the window between Metal Gear Solid and 007, Tomorrow Never Dies. So, unfortunately, they released it at the wrong time. And this is a story of redemption for this company, let me tell you. It was released in February of 1999, and it just kind of fell through the cracks. Nobody talked about it because everybody was, talking about the bigger games. Now, the reason this was, it wasn't just because, it was a smaller company. The reason that is because these guys were infamous by that time for making Bubsy 3D. That was their claim to fame, right? It was a rocky start to a studio. Before, diving into the gameplay or anything else, I need to talk to you about the origins, right? And Bubsy was developed by Eidetic, I believe it's how you pronounce the name, but forgive me if that's not the right pronunciation. But anyway, they were responsible for the infamous Bubsy 3D, one of the worst platformers ever, and I mean ever, on the original PlayStation. This game was universally panned by critics and gamers for poor graphics, bad controls, frustrating gameplay, what have you, right? And even according to one of the creators, Michael Berlin, it had him on the edge of quitting the business, and I'll put a link to my Substack down below. If you haven't signed up for that, guys, do that, because a lot of the stories that I talk about come from there. Some of them make it to video, some don't, but you can always follow me on there. Regardless, he was about to quit the business because of Bubsy. That's how big of a failure and a monumental failure this was, right? But good thing they didn't, right? Let me tell you why. Because they went on to create Syphon Filter. And Syphon Filter, in some ways, was a story ahead of its time. It was, where you got introduced to Gabe Logan, a charismatic, gritty individual, if you will, a macho man. And he was working for the Agency, which is a covert government organization. Let me give you a little bit of the plot here, okay? Alongside his partner, Leon Zing, that's right, there was DEI back then, man. But it was the kind of DEI we all love as gamers, right? And beautiful Asian women. Anyway, they go on a high-stakes mission out there. They're fighting terrorists. And they're fighting this guy named Eric Romer, I believe was his name, or that's how you pronounce it anyway. And these terrorists have gained access to a deadly biological weapon, right? The Syphon Filter virus, that's where the name comes from. And it was capable of targeting specific DNA or, whatever that does, I don't know. Whatever, but that's the story plot, right? And then the story unfolds, and Logan and Zing uncover a deeper conspiracy involving government corruption. Hello, is that relevant today? Have anybody heard of Dodge? Unexpected betrayal, rogue agents, it was all there, man. Espionage. Syphon Filter, it really has the charm of the 90s, right? It's cheesy, but with that memorable dialogue, right? Memorable dialogue. And it's over-the-top action sequences, protagonists. The character, if you had to describe him, it's like a mix between James Bond and Solid Snake, right? That's who you're playing as. Now, despite the modest origins of Syphon Filter, in many ways it was ahead of its time. Starting with the story, it had stealth mechanics, of course, first-person shooting, puzzle-solving elements, but it felt fresh back in the 90s. It really did. One of the outstanding features, it had a taser weapon that became so popular and iconic, guys, because if you used it too much to incapacitate enemies, they would actually set them on fire when you overused it, and a lot of people did. Anyway, the game was not without its flaws, okay? The controls were kind of clunky, based on modern standards, and the graphics, while decent for the time, they did not age well. That's why we need the remake, of course, right? The enemy AI was kind of hit and miss sometimes, and some of the levels were kind of repetitive, right? But other than that, it was a good game, right? Overall, it was a good game, great story, engaging narrative. Some of the levels had dynamic level designs and a cool soundtrack on top of that. And it really complemented the action scenes and the atmosphere, right? But there was a redemption to this company. Let me tell you why. Syphon Filter proved that Eidetic could create good games, compelling games, at least with this release. It was eventually transformed after Sony bought them, right? And they rebranded as Bend Studio. That's right, the Bend Studio that you now know for releasing Days Gone, right? A fan favorite, open world. It's going to get a release on the PlayStation 5, and in a day, right, where we don't have many exclusives on the PlayStation. Syphon Filter, hello, right? But they've gotten recognition for Days Gone, and now, of course, that remaster is going to come out on the PlayStation 5. But why does this game deserve a re-release or a remake? In my judgment, they just remake it, right? In an era where you have franchises like Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, these remakes are receiving critical acclaim and they're selling, right? The absence of this game in particular, Syphon Filter, is mind-boggling, because this is an opportunity to make money here, right? Plus, you have an exclusive franchise. If Sony wants to keep it in-house, the game, the story is still relevant today. Espionage, action, bioterrorism, and the post-COVID era, highly relevant. And the remake could modernize the gameplay mechanics. You can get into deeper storytelling, flush out all the characters. This game, even if you play it now, it's like an old Van Damme movie. You could really have fun with it. Now, just imagine this game that I described to you, but fully realized, open world, enhanced enemy AI, fluid shooting mechanics. Man, you can even port it to the PC if you want to make more money, right? But again, you could really flush it out, and with Bend Studios' experience crafting compelling stories and narratives in open world environments, they could really get the job done, man. They really could. But let me button it up here for you. Let's go to the conclusion, right? This is really a call to action for fans to demand Sony to remake this game for me. Not for you. For me. No, for all of us. I think it'd be a great idea, right? It's a time where Sony lacks so many console exclusives. I think that Syphon Filter has the potential to create a unique game experience for the company. Of course, it's one of their properties. It's a classic for the fans. It could attract new players as well as returning players, and it really would be a dream come true for a lot of people that have been suffering with nostalgia with this particular game, right? Look, if Capcom can breathe new life into Resident Evil and Square Enix and, can reimagine Final Fantasy, why can't Sony redo Syphon Filter, right? And give it the revival it deserves. All right, guys, I'm glad you came deep into the trenches with me, man, and relive a couple of these stories and go over. Tell me what you think. What game would you like Sony to remake of their catalog so they can have more exclusive content to the PlayStation? You guys let me know. In the meantime, I'll put a link again down to my Substack so you can look at all the material reference there. If you want to read the complete article, you can go there. All right, humans, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell, and let me know what you think. What game do you want to see come back?
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.